Peace. Good afternoon. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I'm your foul player. I'd like to wish everyone a tremendous, happy, fruitful 2024. And hopefully I'll be saying that for the next couple days and deading that. 1 second, I left my TV on. Pardon self. And deading that. Pardon self. My apologies. But having said that, I'm not going to make this a long stream. I'm going to try to do one topic and dip. And it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, not only in the sense that I've reported on it in the past as it relates to New York and asylum seekers, or New York City and asylum seekers. Being that New York City is my hometown, I still go into New York quite frequently to see my mom, go see friends, to spar. But lately, as you guys well know, there's been an influx, large influx of migrants that have touched upon the grounds of New York with the intention to reside in New York long term. The official number is 150,000 plus, or 170 something thousand plus. I think that the number far exceeds that. I think in my neighborhood alone, which is Sunset Park in Brooklyn, there's got to be easily another 15,000 to 20,000 new arrivals. And my neighborhood was probably one which had a population of 80,000 recently. I don't got the exact numbers, but I'm not far off on that regard. But I've seen it firsthand, and my mom still lives in my old neighborhood. I see it whenever I go there. I'm going to start doing more videos when I go in person to show you guys some of these asylum seekers, the poor asylum seekers that are arriving in New York. So I'm going to try to, give you some of that content too. Sometimes a little bit sad. It's a little bit overwhelming too, in the sense that, that's my old neighborhood, and it feels like I'm an alien in my old neighborhood, or a stranger, because of how chaotic it is now, and it's all new people that live there for the most part. We already had a bit of a migrant problem prior to the new wave of asylum seekers that have arrived recently. But now, when you have the overpopulation factor that you saw in my neighborhood, Sunset Park, in addition to the overpopulation that's been happening in New York City, this new wave of asylum seekers, it's one that is going to be really hard to bear. Mayor Adams has called himself the Biden of Brooklyn in the past, the Biden of Brooklyn, when he was trying to get in the good graces of the current administration. Now he's kind of like throwing little subtle shots and kind of putting it out there within the media that the fact that he was claiming to be a asylum state, or whatever you call it, not asylum state. I'll think of the word afterwards. But somewhere, one of these cities in which you could that were welcoming migrants to come, and were making it seem like the amount of migrants that would come, the more you add, the bigger of a benefit it would be to your city. New York City was kind of giving inroads as to giving out that vibe. Mayor Adams, particularly. Now Mayor Adams is making it seem like we're in a emergency, because we are in an emergency in New York City. Now, I say we because I'm from New York City, but I sure as hell don't live in New York City. And that's kind of like the subject that I want to talk about today. But I'll get into that in a minute. So for any jackass that makes it seem like, based on political stance, that I could be looking at this through different colored lenses, no, it's not the case. Nobody in my neighborhood in New York City will tell you that this new wave of asylum seekers is anything positive. I'll put that to you straight up. You know, nobody that lives in my neighborhood, working class New York neighborhood, Sunset Park, kind of hood neighborhood, Sunset Park, will tell you that this new wave of asylum seekers, which I'm telling you, in my little neighborhood alone, probably 10,000 that we received in this wave in the past 2 or 3 years. Well, but nobody who lives in my neighborhood will tell you that they enjoyed this new wave. In my neighborhood, when I went to school in 169 in Brooklyn in Sunset Park, we were considered to be in crisis mode as far as schooling goes because we had some classes that had 31, 32 students. Right now, I mean, like, you're hearing 37 students in a lot of these classes in my neighborhood, with the asylum seekers. And you're adding, and I think, and counting, there's new busloads coming every day. So yeah, it's the biggest crisis to hit New York that I've known of since I lived there. Stop and frisk was a shit, and I was adamantly opposed, even though I have conservative views, but I was adamantly opposed to stop and frisk. Like, I thought that that was an outrage as it was happening. Mind you, I mean, like, during that time, it didn't seem like cops were frisking you more than when they came up with the term stop and frisk. I mean, in fact, I thought cops would bust your balls a lot more before they came up with the term stop and frisk. And when they would bust your balls, they would stop and frisk you. I mean, like, you had no recourse. I remember that being like a crisis, or crack hitting New York City being like a crisis. This is right there. I mean, because we already have a recent fentanyl wave that has hit all of America, including New York. New York City, which avoided crystal meth. We had crystal meth like they did in California and Arizona. In New York City, we never had that. We avoided it entirely, and it was something that was affecting white people just as much as it was affecting minorities in the West Coast. Now, fentanyl, I mean, everybody, every hood, every street, every suburb is addicted to fentanyl. It's probably just as bad as the crack wave. I mean, we just started the fentanyl wave, and the fentanyl wave, unlike the crystal meth wave in this country, has hit New York City like a ton of bricks. I mean, I have a few family members that are addicted to fentanyl in addition to other drugs. Nevertheless, I mean, we're at our wits' end in New York City, but what they're trying to do recently is trying to run the okey doke and send some of this new wave of migrants into New Jersey. Now, full disclosure, my where I reside nowadays is in Jersey. And I've said it in past streams and past videos. I could see the skyline of New York City from my house. So I'm not that far from New York City. It's 14 miles, I believe, from my house to New York City. With no traffic, you're talking 15 minutes. Now, what New York has done is that these buses full of migrants that are coming from the border, they're taking some of them and on the sneak using the charter bus companies that are bringing the migrants in and having them drop off in New Jersey, my new home state. Now Jersey is a liberal state. Now I'll give it's one of the reasons why we're taxed so hard in New Jersey, I believe, is in part due to the fact that we're a liberal state, but the school system in New Jersey is really good. I don't care because I didn't use it because I homeschool my son. But it's one of the selling points of Jersey, I guess. But everything in Jersey is expensive. Car insurance, taxes. You know, we're not far off from New York as far as like what the cost of living in the state is. But nevertheless, we're a very democratic state, which is one of the bad things about this state. But in terms of this migrant situation, mind you, we touch New York. Like when you go, like the areas like my area, there's tons of neighborhoods like mine, like that are 10 minutes, 15 minutes from New York City. So my expectation being that we were our liberal state when this migrant crisis did pop off was that New Jersey would be deeply affected by this migrant or asylum seeker crisis, if you will. But the one kudos that I will give to the mayor of New Jersey, who is terrible, Phil Murphy, is that he put his foot down from Jump Street in terms of this migrant situation and said, no, we can't take any in. We're not going to take any in. But New York got slick and used the back door by telling these charter bus companies that are bringing these asylum seekers in from the border. New York has taken it upon itself to have these charter buses drop the asylum seekers off in New Jersey in the train stations. We have a transit system that is based solely around going into New York City from Jersey. Like here in New Jersey, it's called New Jersey Transit. So it's not as expansive of a transit or train system as New York City. It's not even 10% of it, but its sole intention is to get to these bigger towns and cities in New Jersey, like Secaucus, to a lesser degree Edison, or they're not, they're just not like these small rinky-dink towns. They're decent sized towns like that have like 20,000, 30,000 people in them, in and around North Jersey. Towns that are close to New York, like mine. What they're doing is that they're dropping them off at the train stations in these towns. And this, I guess, started in the last 3 days. I've heard about it, like as far as on the regular news. Like I've heard in these last 3 days, like around the time of New Year, that they were trying to send migrants or asylum seekers from New York City into New Jersey. So what New Jersey has done is to take a proactive approach and ship them right back into New York. So in essence, I mean, like New Jersey is behaving in a sense similar to what people criticize Texas for. Oh, well, Texas is taking these migrants and shipping them off into New York, like, oh, Texas. And I think the governor of Texas is not a great person, but if it was a choice between me keeping them in my state, if I were Texas, or sending them elsewhere, particularly the states that have said that they welcomed asylum seekers, I mean, I'm not going to keep them in my state. So, I mean, as much as I don't agree with the approach that Governor Abbott has taken, I mean, if the choice is New York City or Texas, I mean, it's got to be New York City. But New Jersey, in a sense, is basically doing what Texas is doing in saying that, we don't want no problems, no part of this asylum seeker crisis, and we're sending them right back to New York. New York is like kind of like pleading like for New Jersey to take on migrants. That was actually a story. It might be part of the story that I'm going to share in the link that I'm putting up now. Sorry while I look for this. And again, I want to thank you guys for coming through into the file playland with your boy. It should be it. So hopefully I have the article pulled up. And this is from the New York Post. And the article reads, or headlines as follows. New Jersey deploys cops to send dumped migrants to New York City in desperate move. Quote, F this. I'm going to start from the tops. Migrants in New Jersey, forget about it. New Jersey officials are making sure the Big Apple doesn't dump the out-of-control migrant mess on the Garden State, and are even deploying cops to usher asylum seekers from the U.S. border onto Manhattan-bound New Jersey transit trains as soon as they get off their buses. So from the scrap across the Hudson comes as New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy tries to rally the state's mayors to form a united front, while New York City Mayor Eric Adams pleads with Murphy to take on at least part of the migrant burden that is buying the 5 boroughs. One scary thing about this is that he says Phil Murphy tries to rally the state's mayors to form a united front, while New York. One thing that scares me about that is that what if one of these rogue mayors gets a bunch of payola from outside entities, and that mayor says, listen, in this town in New Jersey, in my town, we're accepting all asylum seekers. And then they coordinate an effort from there to try to move them into other parts of Jersey on the low. It's one thing people should be vigilant about, I guess, in the future. New Jersey has said, fuck this, one source close to the situation told the Post on Wednesday. Quote, New Jersey transit cops were waiting for them in Secaucus to show them how to get on the train to New York. No, they shouldn't be showing them how to get on the train to New York. They should be escorting them straight into New York. Multiple Garden State sources described the scene as hectic over the last few days as nearly 24 migrant buses rolled into train stations with, quote, chaperones, with New Jersey transit cops taking them over and serving as guides on how to get nearly 1,000 asylum seekers across the river, meaning across the river into New York City. The process has been successful so far, with no migrants choosing to stay in Jersey, thankfully. Since Saturday, 23 buses have dropped off 1,017 asylum seekers in New Jersey, with 953 then boarding trains into Manhattan and the rest going elsewhere, according to the data reviewed by the Post. The new wrinkle in the old crisis stems from Adams' move last week to issue an executive order limiting the influx of migrant buses from the border, most of them from Texas. Adams demanded 32-hour advance notice before buses arrive in Manhattan, and may only do so at one spot on West 41st Street and only between 8:30 a.m. and noon. But charter bus companies did an end around, dropping hundreds of migrants off in unsuspecting New York, Jersey stations in Secaucus, Fanwood, Edison, and Trenton, where they are guided into Manhattan-bound transit trains that are not covered under Adams' order. The grimy thing too, or this is close to where I live. Like this town, Secaucus, is probably like, give or take, no traffic, a little bit over 5 minutes from my cribbos. The Jersey towns were blindsided by the unsuspected arrivals over the holiday weekend, prompting a swift rebuke from local polls like Edison Mayor Sam Joshi, who threatened to bust them back to Texas. New York City Deputy Mayor Fabian Levi repeatedly insisted the Adams administration had reached out to every town on a transit line to avoid catching suburbs off guard. That was news in New Jersey, where local government officials said they had no advance notice. See, what I don't agree is that this Jersey town, Edison, is threatening to send these asylum seekers back into Texas. Save yourself that money and send them right back into New York. New York said they would accept them, so you said you wouldn't accept them, so send them into New York. City Hall eventually conceded that there was, of course, no way of knowing where Governor Abbott would choose to send migrants before the order was issued. Spokesperson Kyla, whatever, said, which is why our outreach continues to additional localities. Adam has also urged other nearby municipalities with easy access to the Big Apple to join this fight to issue orders limiting the arrival times. But his pleas, however, have fallen on deaf ears. Staffers said he was scheduled to meet with Murphy on the phone this week, but neither side will confirm that the chat ever happened. Murphy being the governor of New Jersey. At a press conference Wednesday, Murphy told reporters that his state will continue to push migrants to Manhattan because New York City is where the federal support and resources available. See, this is Secaucus right here, the train station or bus station, and this is New York City or downtown New York. So if you guys could see, I mean, there's a river that separates these two areas, being New Jersey and New York. There's a river in between it, but you can see how close it is still, and it's not like a rinky-dink river. It's a big river, the Hudson River. This is a manageable situation, and I'd expect it will continue to be so, he added. Murphy's comments about federal aid come to shock as the Empire State, where Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul have spent months pleading with the White House to help manage the crisis. However, local officials in New Jersey said they're ill-equipped to take on the migrants. Doesn't make any sense, Secaucus Town Administrator Gary Jeffers told the Post. For us here, any bus traveling into the station, how do we know when they will be here so we could even have people to turn them away? It would have to be a design beyond Secaucus. I'm gonna leave it there because that's a bunch of other airy bullshit besides that. Again, like this is the Secaucus area, beautiful view of New York City. You have the Empire State Building right here. You could peep all that stuff in New York or in New Jersey, the beautiful skylines of New York because of the proximity and how close they are. Now I'm saying? So you know, it's gonna be, this isn't the end of it. You know, I think that no matter what, there are gonna be migrants that end up here. I think I peeped two of them in my neighborhood, but the number that I was trying to come up with is here in this article, and it says about 162,000 migrants have arrived in New York City since the spring of 2022, completely overwhelming city shelters and finances, with the crisis forcing City Hall into unsavory cuts in services. So the city's been dangerous since 2021 or more, and now they added a problem onto their own selves with this asylum seekers, and now the city's going to have to also forcefully go into cuts to try and mitigate this asylum seeker, pardon the horn, this asylum seeker fiasco that we're going through. Trying to see if I can hear that through the. No, you can't hear it through the horn from the outside. But nevertheless, glad this is happening in New Jersey. I mean, like, I left New York before this asylum seeker stuff happened. But even back then, I mean, like when I was living in Sunset or my old neighborhood, Sunset Park, you couldn't tell me that we didn't have a migrant problem then, inundated with people. I mean, like, you can't find a parking spot in my hood. But now, I mean, you know, since I left, it's a ton more crazy. All these dudes have scooters. It seems like they have a small amount of cash that they come into the country with because all of them have the money to get one of these little motorbike scooters that cost about $800. A lot of them seem to have clean clothes. I mean, or nice clothes, new clothes, if you will. A lot of them seem to be just chilling, hanging out. Like that takes money too at times, most times. So they have enough most times, to get by and buy a little motorcycle as soon as they get here, gear, you know, that's coming from somewhere. And as far as not wanting them here in my new state of New Jersey, you know, I left New York City because it was getting too crazy and too packed. Where I live is pretty spaced out. I mean, my neighbors aren't on top of each other, like, driveways, yards, all this shit. Like, I don't want, like, what on my street, I mean, like, there's nobody really, you may have like a total, like in the old day, 30 people walk by, including the people that live here on my street. When one person that's sort of sketchy walks by, and by sketchy, I mean somebody with a pulse walks by, it registers with me. I'm not saying that I changed my life, but, I notice, can't not notice. But when you introduce a class of people like these asylum seekers, from what I see, all men, healthy, between the ages of like 20 and 35, nothing to do. I don't want to see them walking around in my new neighborhood. You crazy. Don't ask me, middle class, regular dude, to change my lifestyle because some bureaucrat, liberal yuppie, wants to make a statement in accepting asylum seekers into this country. You want to accept them? Bring them into your house. Like, it shouldn't be that New Jersey, working class New Jersey, all these towns up here, towns that were way more attractive to me and to other people that left New York, which there are tons of them in New Jersey. New Jersey is all New Yorkers. We shouldn't have to bear the brunt of some fucking newly arrived young unemployed cat to be roaming around New Jersey. F that. I mean, like, New York wanted, I mean, and I don't think it's right that New York, that they're ending up in New York too. I mean, I wish that they, somebody put their foot down and stop that shit in the border. But I mean, like, you live in an insane world right now. Accept backwards to be forwards and up to be down, and for people to tell you that you're a bigot if you don't believe what your eyes are telling you, basically. But do I think it's right that Texas sends migrants into New York? Absolutely not. I think Texas will have their National Guard at the border, stopping all migrants from coming in. So I mean, like, it's not that I'm cheering on a troll job that's happening to the whole New York City, not one bit. And the biggest vocal supporters of anti-asylum seekers in the whole planet Earth, in the whole America right now, are Black and Spanish people from New York City. We don't want these dudes. You know, if you think Chicago is bitching about the wave of migrants that has come into Chicago, which is probably like 40,000 migrants, what do you think hood motherfuckers from New York, from Brooklyn, from Harlem, from the Bronx are feeling right now about a new wave of asylum seekers popping up in the hood all over when the hood was already packed? Like a lot of these liberal white people are probably thinking that, you know, that oh well they both play Spanish, they both speak Spanish, they'll play the bongos together. Like no, like fucking these dudes are hood as fuck too that are showing up. These dudes ain't no clowns. Like these dudes that are showing up ain't coming in straw hats with like sandals. Like nah, they look like fucking straight up like Puerto Rican Dominican cats like that show up without working or that are chilling in New York. And I'm saying it in Puerto Rican, but I know how Puerto Ricans get down. I know how Dominicans get down. We're grimy if you leave us to it. Now you're adding another like group of grimy dudes into New York City when there were already tons of grimy dudes. And I say dudes, emphasis dudes. Like, ain't no women that showing up with this little wave of migrants, except women that are like seemingly like straight up into the trade off the rip, prostitutes, which is terrible. You know, and that's acceptable nowadays too. Sex work. Oh, it's sex work. The brave sex workers. You know, this is what's happening nowadays. You know, and I think honestly that they pushed the whole wave of acceptance of sex work and women empowerment through selling pussy, to be crass. I think they pushed a lot of that stuff, knowing that this new class of really, 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 really poor people are gonna come into a country that's already really, really, really poor in recent history. I think they normalized sex work in a sense, to knowing that a lot of women are probably going to be compelled into, you know, going into sex work. And no, not OnlyFans. Like that's not what happened. What's happening with these recent asylum seekers, women that actually have enlarged pelvises and vaginas. To be clear, these new wave of women with enlarged pelvises that are arriving in New York are going into sex work, not on OnlyFans. Like, you know, they're going into sex work in fucking Roosevelt Avenue, Queens, New York City. You know, blowing like some fat dude that drives a cab all day, doesn't even wash himself, and you know has to get these brave sex workers to blow him off, so that they could get $7 and their fucking their escort, I mean, or their chaperone gets for $30 out of that. You get the idea. Let me get a drink of water. And I'm sorry to be crass, but it's a reality. Haven't looked in my comments, but I see my homegirl Lala D stepped into the building. Happy New Year. Had I known a lady was in the chat, I probably would have still said the stuff I said, but maybe I would have blushed. But thank you for coming through and Happy New Year again. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you they're of the age where you know your theory could, you know, could pop off. Like if you were bringing in a bunch of old women and you're saying, oh well, like they may try to give the strap to these old women to try something here domestically in this country, I would tell you you're nuts. But you know what I'm seeing is straight up dudes that are showing up, young dudes. Chicago has them too. They just dropped them here. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in Chicago too, and you know, again, I use Chicago as the as my example too, because you're seeing a lot of videos in Chicago where like Black people and Latin people that are from Chicago are saying, "Yo, we don't want them here," you know. But New York doesn't even go out and look for those kind of interviews. Honestly, even Republican, conservative, Fox 5, let's say, doesn't go out every day and try to get interviews of people giving their perspective of the migrant situation, because people would literally grab the mic and start talking shit in front of a group of migrants, like how people are feeling right now. That's what I'm seeing. Like, no, everybody has a bad story regarding like what's happening in New York City right now. So, you know, and this is all like coordinated. You know, they have stories of buses that were bringing in migrants with separate buses carrying those same groups luggage. You know, buses essentially full of just luggage. That's why they're saying that you're seeing like a lot of these dudes that are making the trek from South America into New York. I mean, into the United States. They're saying a lot of times you don't see those guys with a lot of book like equipment on, like book bags. They're saying that literally like from these countries in Southern America that they're being escorted with buses carrying both their luggage and themselves pretty much most of this trek from South America into America. So I mean, like, you know, that takes a great deal of coordination. And no, it's not happening in South America as far as where that coordinating is taking place. No, that's happening here in America. I mean, I peeped a few groups that are doing it. Like, I don't want to put it out there as to yet, maybe. Like, I don't see myself like really lasting on this platform long term. Having said that, I mean, I gotta really commit myself to making content. But if I gotta make content elsewhere, I'm gonna do it. Particularly if I could speak more freely. Having said that, I have seen groups that are actively participating in the transport of migrants. From my evidence that I've seen groups that are working in Texas at the border and Arizona at the border and bringing people in to New York. The groups that I've seen firsthand, maybe not in Texas necessarily, but I've seen footage in Texas. In addition to the ones that I know are working in New York, one that I'll mention is HISA, I believe they're called, HISA, are all of the same ilk, you know, which it's a little scary. And I don't want to put that out like, and, you know, I went into my little tirade as to me having to move to a different platform in the future. But having said that, it's a little bit scary that these small groups that are taking place in the coordination of bringing people in addition to their equipment, luggage, whatever, from the border into places like New York and everywhere else throughout the country, are part of small subsets. And I don't want to bring up that small subset here on this platform, especially because I don't want to get kiboshed. But it's very scary that you know, you see people from the same ilk coordinating these things that are the biggest disaster that happened in this country since I've been alive. Straight up. Alpha, off topic. I heard New York City has a lot of defensive architecture. Basically, nowhere comfortable for people to sit or rest. The seats are extremely uncomfortable. Pure evil. They claim anti-homeless. Yeah, no, New York City had that for a minute. Like, if you go into a building and the building has two pillars on either side, usually those pillars on the bottom would have a flatter surface, maybe as the base of the bottom side of that pillar. And probably in the 2000s, they started putting like little spikes on stuff like that. Let's say that's been happening for a minute. New York City, I mean, we're the most liberal city, but you go to these same judges that are ultra liberal, bleeding heart Democrat, that are not sentencing anybody that comes their way because of a political stance that they're taking in 2023, and not sending people to jail for like violent crimes, let's say. Those same judges that were still liberal Democrat were the same judges that when it was ordered by the administration in the 90s, liberal administration, to go after super predators, those are the same judges that were locking up people left and right. I mean, I've been to court many times, like, and the whole courtroom is full of like hood dudes, like scared shitless because the judge has a hair up his ass that day, but these same liberal judges that are making it seem that now incarcerating violent people is somehow an affront to society as a whole, were gun-ho in picking and choosing as to who the super predators were, in the late early 90s. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, liberal just means evil as far as the liberals in power. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, it certainly is. And as it relates to Spanish and Black people, I mean, liberal is the worst thing. I mean, what's widely accepted as liberal. Their stance in terms of Black and Spanish people is that they know what's best for us. And you see that in the times in which Black and Spanish people I've seen try to sway off course, how fast liberals will turn on them, white liberals, particularly rich white liberals, especially. An example of that is during 2021, when a lot of businesses in New York City were requiring you to show proof of drinking tea to enter those businesses. One particular that I always mention is a Burger King in East New York had a gentleman enter the establishment, a Black kid enter the establishment, and just wanted to order, and basically ignored them when they were questioning him whether he had his paperwork to show proof that he had drank the tea. I think it was actually a group of people that were doing it purposely, people that didn't drink the tea, that all knew that Burger King in East New York was tripping, and asking people at the door whether they had proof of drinkage of tea. And they went, I think it was a small group, and all of them got arrested. But that's liberal New York. I mean, like, this is during a time when they're not arresting anybody, but they take it there on or like when they try to front, like, oh yeah, like they don't want to call the cops on Black or Spanish people because they think that something bad could happen by the cops just showing up and you being, Latin or Black. But they call the cops on, they'll call the cops on these cats that don't want to show proof of paperwork, and they'll arrest them. But there's violent shit that goes down in New York, or this happened during a time in which, New York was allergic to arresting people, anybody, you know what I'm saying? But they're liberal just in what they want to put out there to the world. They're not liberal in their thinking. These people, like, if somebody's telling you as policy that Black and Spanish people don't know any better, so we should be the ones deciding for them, then that's worse than somebody telling me, like, listen, like, we outright don't want to work with you and don't want to be around you. I mean, like, and we hate you. I rather that, like, the latter. Like, I know where we stand. Let's see. Blacks and Puerto Ricans are so blinded by democracy and liberalism. It's scary. Yeah, I think you know what it is too. And I'm starting to notice that a lot of times, like, Black, like, Latin people, we get caught up in, like, issues like the abortion issue, let's say, or the police issue, the like we'll get locked into that one, into those, like those issues way more, like, than, like, what are we gonna get, like, as far as for votes. We're the only people that don't get shit for voting. And I actually have always said the solution to that would be to threaten with your votes and say, listen, if you guys don't give us what we want, we're straight up going into the other party. That would bring New York onto its knees. And I always said that as a New York solution. If the Democrats don't have New York for votes, I mean, they won't win an election. It's probably worse than losing Cali. But like you said, Black Puerto Ricans, we get tripped up on dumb issues, emotional on dumb issues a lot of times, especially politically. I mean, I don't get caught up. Like, right now, I am, in my eyes, like, thinking back on it, I mean, like, or not thinking back on it, thinking, like, what I need for myself in present day, and, like, I'm not a great orator, or, like, somebody that I want people to get behind me and whatnot. But having said all that, like, right now, like, as far as wanting things, like, for my peoples and whatnot, I mean, it's a hard, not that we shouldn't strive for that. I mean, like, but I mean, like, the expectation, I think, for, like, minorities at times is that somebody's gonna throw us a bone, in a sense, or we're gonna guilt somebody into giving us some shit, when it shouldn't even be that way. We should be looking at it as, all right, if the world is hating on us, then fuck it. Like, I mean, like, then now we know where the opposition is. Now we know what we got to do. Now we know how we get ahead. Like, or now we know, like, what's may stop us to try to get ahead besides ourselves. But we get tripped up politically, like, I mean, like, in these, like, nothing issues at times. And our biggest opposition ultimately is ourselves, in addition to the people that look like us too. But now I don't want to go into a tangent like that, because I don't want to make it seem like it's not hopeful. Like, I do think, like, my peoples are going to get their heads straight in the future. I'm not black pilled in that sense. And I do think that we're living in epic times. As much as things are upside down, I think it's a great time to be alive. Nevertheless, I mean, that's more of a message for whoever's listening. 2024, it's a fantastic time to be alive. I mean, not only are you seeing, like, some crazy shit entertainment wise, as far as, like, the stuff that they try to cram down your throat. One thing that does suck is that music, movies, TV shows, this current era, all suck. Every one of them. Sports, not that far behind. But you're living in awesome times, as far as I mean, like, what's coming around the bend. Like, I mean, like, this whole situation is gonna blow over, and where regular people are gonna have to talk about it candidly. I think that's not happening as far as the popular media goes. Like, that, I mean, if it's censored, they're not showing you people talking about this issue pissed off. That going to try to avoid the issue outright. So you may not think it's a big issue, but it's a humongous issue if you're in Chicago, in New York, and any other city that's currently inundated or soon to be inundated by this asylum seeker crisis. But with that, I'm going to dip off. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of your year. With that, thank you for stepping into the Foul Playland with me. And thank you for coming through, Lala D. People are timid to comment on my chat normally. I agree. I'm grateful to witness these prophecies. Word up. Yeah, people are. I normally have like I had 7 earlier. I mean, not that it's a ton, but I have a decent amount of people that come to my live streams. But I think I'm like on the LDBC block list or some shit. Like where if you come discuss politics on my channel and they screenshot that you said a comment of in my chat, then you'll be kicked out of a internet brotherhood. I don't know what the fuck is up, because I never get nobody comment on my shit besides like if somebody comes through, that I know, like Lala D, thanks for coming through, and or Michael Johnson. But even if anybody could comment, I'm not gonna block anybody. I agree in free speech. The only thing, don't leave me shit that's gonna get my channel fucked up. I had a policy in the past, and it's because I've heard other people adopt that policy and say, as long as you ain't leaving no racist shit on the chat, you don't get blocked. Listen, I'm a free speech absolutist. Having said that, if you think that Puerto Ricans are utilized of spick and span and you feel that way about us, feel free. I mean, like, I don't care if you feel that, like basically, if you could say whatever the fuck you want, as long as they don't get my shit, like in this chat at least. You feel away, you feel away. I don't give a shit. I mean, you ain't honestly, I wouldn't even trip about somebody saying that shit, saying the way they feel about whoever the fuck, as long as you're not bringing it my way. I mean, like, if you're bringing it my way, like, or talking in my face, and saying that you feel a way about like Spanish people in a threatening fashion, you're getting fucking a little fist to your frontage. But if you feel a way and you want to express it in how you feel about whatever, I don't give a shit. Like, not one bit, not one iota. I think people should be airing out what they feel more than less nowadays. Everything's so PC and whack. I mean, like, I grew up with black cats in my school, my peoples, ragging on like Puerto Ricans and whatnot, like as far as dissing, and me ragging them right back, dissing, like with all jokes, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was always the thing, like, and now, I mean, I don't know if kids do that nowadays. I mean, like, but I grew up doing that in high school, fucking the programs, in junior high, and fucking elementary school. Now everybody, I mean, like, you can't air out anything without somebody getting pissed off. I mean, like, then in 2024, I mean, you should be airing out and let the people get pissed off. They're wrong for getting pissed off, not you for saying how you feel about whatever the fuck. I don't care if you're a hard rock, if you're pussy. I don't care if you're a moron like Mr. Shelton or highly intelligent. You could say whatever you want on this platform as far as my chat goes. But with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your 2024, because it's going to be interesting. With that, I'm out. Peace.